So it's been over 6 months since we've started covering the Smashing Pumpkins Autumn Trilogy. We're finally at probably the finish of the marathon with the release now of Act 3. We're wondering here if this is Billy Corgan's redemption story. Good afternoon to you, Al. What were your general thoughts around what this final act was out of the three?
Yeah, good afternoon, mate. Look, I've tried to give it fair justice. The first two acts I really struggled with and copped a bit of criticism for my low ratings, and the second act got a 0, which was the lowest rating I've ever given any album. And this does get a little bit higher than that, so I can say that first of all. There's a few highlights off this particular album for me. It is the longest of the three, coming in at 53 minutes, and a couple of tracks towards the end that I particularly liked. The song Spellbinding, which is, of course, the track that's played at the end of the recent movie Murder Mystery 2. Adam Sandler brings that to life. So there's a little bit here for me, mate. But look, in general, I really struggled with it, and I had to be fair and give it a fair listen, as we do here at Indie Miners, to be critical but fair. But I still really struggled, mate. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I know it's been tough listening. We've managed to get through all 33 tracks now. I'd probably agree with you. I thought that there were some songs. He probably was a little bit less on the synths this time. In Lieu of Failure was probably my favourite song. He was a little bit coy on the podcast in relation to that. He said that there was a song that was written to as if it was the Pumpkins from 1996. So there you go. I thought that Spellbinding was also okay, but there was still that element. There were still a lot of synths in the record. Still just sounded not quite right, to be quite honest. I think that it was probably still the best of the three, but wouldn't be something that I would recommend to anyone in particular. Sort of interested more probably in the podcast as well. I sort of see him, and it's really sort of a really fascinating insight into Billy Corgan. He did seem to respond to a lot of the criticisms in relation to the album being synth heavy, the use of auto tuning, but he's almost a walking contradiction in relation to that. So he did, on the very first track of this particular act, say that he didn't use auto tune for Sojourner, didn't talk about any of the other tracks. There was another track, Cenotaph, which he came out and said that this was like an acoustic only or acoustic song, but in reality it was an acoustic song with synths over the top of it. So just stuff like that. It was a little bit sort of grating here, but it was insightful, I guess. What did you think?
Yeah, just a little on the podcast, mate. You and I were talking about this, and I haven't listened to all of the podcasts because you couldn't pay me to fucking do so. But in terms of the part where he's talking about that if someone was to pay him $1 million, he would write whatever they wanted him to write. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that? Because I'm really interested in that. And if that is true, Billy, I've got a few ideas on what you could do, mate.
Well, look, I think we should make a call out to all of our benefactors out there, our subscribers who have got a spare $1 million. He made the comment after In Lieu of Failure, so that was very interesting to say, look, I'll write whatever I want if you give me $1 million. And I thought, well, okay, or maybe we should start a Kickstarter campaign or whatever they call it to raise those funds and see what he could come up with, because frankly, I think we'd all prefer to listen to something like that. He did also say, by the way, that he is very much for the fans and he writes music for the fans. So, yeah, a little bit of a contradiction in relation to that, but I'd be very interested to see if there was a billionaire out there who could just sort of drop a spare $1 million into Billy's pocket and see what that could come up with. But Al, just in terms of what's next, I don't know. I know he's setting himself up for the future, all so cool. But where can you see things heading?
Yeah, look, I mean, he's wrapped up this concept now, so he's had a good crack at it. I mean, it's 3 acts. It's it's 33 songs, and there also is, of course, the 10 B-sides that will be released. And you and I know, mate, being big old school kind of Pumpkins fans, that a lot of the B-sides that were released back in the day were pretty bloody fantastic. So there could be a bit of a diamond in the rough here, mate, and I'm very much hoping that there is. But in terms of where to from here, I'm really hoping that Billy can have a glass of water and settle down, as my dad would say to me when I got a bit too excited on something, because he's I don't know, he's tried something and it's different, to give him credit. It is different, but I personally haven't really enjoyed it and haven't really seen how it kind of fits into what I was hoping the Smashing Pumpkins would do at this late stage of their career. I do believe, though, that he will remaster Machina, the first Machina. So that would be hugely exciting if he does that. But I don't know really where to from here, mate. It's exciting times in the Pumpkins camp, but I'd be interested in what you've got to say about where they might go from here.
Yeah, and all I can say is that if any of those 10 tracks are better than the ones that he released in the 33, it just proves that he's an A-grade bastard. That's all I'm going to say. So,
absolutely.
Getting to our rating, Al, I'm hoping you give it more than 1 star. So, for all our listeners out there, he gave it 0 stars for Act 2. Can you give it a star? You're going to throw it a bone.
I am going to throw it a bone, mate. I will give it 1 star. It nearly got 1.5, but I'm going to stick with 1. It sounds really harsh, but compared to other albums that are out there and what other bands are doing right now, the Pumpkins really are only, in my opinion, at this stage of their career, riding on the coattails of their name. Now, if this album was to be produced or created by any other artist, it would be getting 0 stars and 0.5. Like, it really is a hard listen, and it's not for everyone, but I know I'll get a bit of flack, but my offsider BJ, I know you're going to give it a bit more than me just to round it up and keep people happy, as you do, Mr. Crowd Pleaser, but it's a 1 for me, mate.
Yeah, look, I'm going to keep people happy. I'm going to say 3 stars. Look, it's not a 5-star or a 4-star record, this particular part. I think that probably overall it probably averages out at 2.5 for the 3 acts. I don't think it's something that I will continue to listen to. I think that we've spent a lot of time listening to this, trying to get our heads around it, try to see where he's coming from. But I think that it's fallen down, and all I can say is that I don't see him going back to his strengths. He's going to double down with this, and we're going to be hearing a lot more of this to come, I suspect. Okay, so that is our review of the final act from the Autumn Trilogy. That wraps up another episode of Indie Miners. Please look to subscribe to the channel, follow us on Twitter, and let us know if there's an album you would like us to look at. So until next time, bye for now, and thank you for watching.